All right, guys, we're jumping in with some hobby here, working to build that narrative. At least for me, one of the reasons why I love miniature wargaming systems. Of course, the social aspects, the collectible aspects, the tactica aspects, but this idea of being able to step outside of space and time, this idea of playing with painted miniatures on an awesome looking table with effects and really trying to create a simulation and really try to step into that narrative, whatever it's going to be, historical, grimdark, World War I, Pacific Rim Extinction, Battletech, X-Wing miniatures, all of the systems that I enjoy. But of course, we say, in the moment, and maybe you're there, but if not, you will be, my miniature collection is good. You know, I've got my faction, I've got my army, I've got a couple of subsets that I can swap in and out. I feel pretty good. But then you want to start another army, or you want to expand and expand. So we begin to look at this idea of miniature acquisition. And today's vlog is building on some comments. eBay. Is eBay a great way to do it? It's certainly the easiest way. Now, in terms of miniature acquisition, what the companies want you to do is purchase from their web store or purchase from a distributor like a local gaming store, which is important. You want to support your local community as best you can, because not only the physical space to play, a lot of stores offer that, but as a real life nexus and hub to meet players and to socialize and to plug in literally to your local community. Of course, there's online communities and YouTube and forum and Facebook pages. So supporting your local store, absolutely very, very important. And there are a lot of ways to support the local store in addition to miniature purchases. But that's the primary outlet. And of course, companies, say like Games Workshop, they want you to purchase from the web store because they hype it up. There's the FOMO, and you're paying absolute non-discount, highest price possible. And Games Workshop is cut out that middle distributor or the smaller type of game shop. But this isn't always practical for a couple of reasons. First might be, if we're just using Games Workshop as an example, Warhammer 40,000, Age of Sigmar, their release schedule is so fast. And on the one hand, that's great because we're getting awesome new miniatures and awesome new kits. But if you miss something, or if it's limited release, or you want to add something from a previous season or a lower cycle, you're out. You're not getting that back. So you're not able to go to the web store. And the second aspect, certainly an important factor, usually the driving factor, the cost. The cost. We want to get the most value for our money to build the biggest army. Now, what that means, sidebarring for just a moment, yes, I'd love to purchase tons and tons of miniatures and have them and play them. And I've done that for some systems when I've been very, very fortunate in life in that moment. But most of my acquisitions, for those of you who've seen my 40K armies and other systems, they've been slow and steady. If you love the hobby, you're going to be playing for a very, very long time, getting a lot of great use out of your miniatures. Battletech playing a long time. Every month, add a couple of miniatures, 2 or 3 mechs, maybe a unit. Now, the great part about this is it makes the cost reasonable, but also it helps you and allows you to paint them and get that moving from that perspective. So it's not always necessary to buy a ton of miniatures. You can build slow and steady. Building slow and steady, going to eBay. Now, what I've noticed on eBay, at any moment, I can probably find exactly what I want on eBay. And the things that I look on eBay for are, of course, miniatures, also board gaming components and missed Kickstarters and missed things. I'm still trying to track down the 4 Kings for Dark Souls. I can find them. I go on there right now, I find it. But the price point is so insane. The price point is so high. And the challenge here is having a little bit of patience to try and discover something of value. This admittedly, and we're going to look at the preferred alternative, cycling back to our local gaming store or local gaming club. The challenge here is most of the eBay sellers, they know what they're selling. You can go on, you can look what other price points are there. You can look at what the models cost new. You can get this idea. And a lot of them will say, well, look, I'm just going to ask high. And I put it up there and it exists out there on the internet, out in the cloud, so to speak, and eventually someone comes by and gets it. I'm in no hurry. It's not like I've got to liquidate this for some reason. So those high prices on single items exist. Whether it's worth it up to you or not, that depends. You want to get that special model, you want to get that special HQ. That's a different story. We see miniature lots, just groups of miniatures, and this is what I tend to focus on. Often you'll see groups of miniatures for sale that, I don't want to say a bunch of random stuff together. Sometimes it's smaller armies. Sometimes it's pieces from a miniature system that obviously the seller is transitioning out of, getting out of. I might be interested in one or two pieces there, and if the price is reasonable, I will jump in. And then the other miniatures that I get, maybe I'll paint them up and use them. But if I don't, they kind of go over to the side to trade. What I do try to stay away from, and actually at this point I do completely stay away from, pre-painted armies for any system. And the reason for this, but there's an exception, but the reason for this, and it's tempting to purchase a pre-painted army and be able to play it. The challenge here is, and you have to ask yourself, this might be a yes, this might be a no, can you replicate the style and the level of painted miniatures? You're going to be adding stuff to that army. You're going to want to be expanding that army. Now, a perfect example was years ago, this is offline, there was a Tyranid army at the Battle for Salvation Gaming Club. It had been through a number of players. One member played it, added some Tyranids, sold it to another player, added some Tyranids, sold it to another player, added some Tyranids, and it finally got to the point where I'm like, I wasn't looking to play Tyranids, but this is a good deal. The army was painted in such a way that it looked great. All the paints, in addition to tutorials and notes on how to replicate it. So there was this understanding that this army is going to be passed on to future club members. Here's how you replicate it down to the colors, the colors and the paints and the palette that you're going to need and the techniques used. And when I added to it, I followed that, and it looks exactly the same. So you have to really look and understand, you're probably going to want to expand to a painted army. Can you do it? Now, the sidebar to that is, do you strip them? When I was building my Metal Necron army, and when I was really looking to bulk up on my 3rd edition classic Tyranid army, I've got a modern Space Bug army and a classic, those are metal miniatures. I was looking for just gaunts. I was looking for carnifexes. I was looking for brain bugs, and they're metal. So I didn't even care what they were painted like, because I'm just stripping them very, very easy. I know you can strip plastics. I've never really had a lot of success. I'll leave that for other YouTubers and other kind of comments. But if it's metal miniatures, I have no problem stripping it. Right now, I am on eBay looking for the classic Dragonlance miniatures. Now, this is from the 80s. This is going to require some patience and time, because it's already a limited old school type aspect. But also, to find it, Dragonlance commands a pretty high premium. At some point, I'll find it on eBay. If I found them, I don't necessarily need them complete in the box, because I'm going to be utilizing them for a Kryn campaign. We're going to be pulling out the Dwarven Forge and get all that going. I'm thinking about starting that in the fall, so I have time. I'm kind of prepping now. But this is an example. Those are old school metal. If they're, it doesn't even matter how. Now, if they're painted fantastic, it's the Heroes of the Lance. That's great. I'll use them. If they're painted not that great, or old paint kind of chipped and faded, that's no problem. I can strip them because they're metal. So generally speaking, with eBay, it's hit or miss. I think if you have patience, you can score a good deal. But if you're looking to bulk up your army a little bit each month and you don't want to pay full retail, this is what I would recommend. Going back to the local gaming store. Networking and asking, being kind of upfront with friends. Hey, I'm looking to get my hands on some more Space Marines. I'm looking to get my hands on some more mechs. Do you have anything to trade? Do you have any to sell? There are numerous players that they have extra miniatures, or maybe they bought something on eBay that they have. Maybe they've got some prize support. There was one time, a couple of editions back, where we were playing in tournaments, And in like 3 tournaments, the prizes that I won, I mean, this was popular at the time when people were playing Las Plaz Razorbacks and Razorback spam for Space Marines. So the prize support was like giving out Razorbacks if you won. I walked away with like 10 or 15 Razorbacks. I've still got 8 of them in the box just sitting there. Now, it's not like my play style. I've got enough Razorbacks in my Templar army. They've cycled in and out of the editions. But that's an example of I might trade those away. They're perfectly great. I'm not going to use them. I might trade those away. So being able to network, I find you'll get a better deal. Or sometimes if I'm going to pay money, fair is fair, and I want to respect the material. Personally, if I had to give my money for some miniatures, I'd rather give it to a friend. I'd rather give it to a fellow community member because they're going to take that money, buy more miniatures, paint them, and I'm going to get to play against them. So I'm also a big fan of keeping things in the community as much as possible, but I think you will get better deals and better acquisitions locally than you will eBay. So I'm going to turn it over to you guys in the comments. Miniature acquisition secondhand. What are some of those options? What are some of those ideas? And how do you go about bulking up your army over time?